Well, the PR-4 report is done, and it contains several elements. The first element is a detailed history, and this typically will include what are the pain values, um, what's the frequency of the pain and symptoms, are they relying on medications, are they having side effects from the medications, because believe it or not, side effects are additionally rateable in impairment reports, or are they pain free but rely upon medications to remain pain free? Because if that's the case, that's another different rating consideration. So we want to know about how they're doing, how frequently they're feeling the symptoms, what they need to feel as good as they can. And remember, this is to alleviate and or cure the remaining symptoms of an industrial injury. Um, Number two in the exam that often gets overlooked is the review of activities of daily living. Now, we always talk and ask patients, well, what can you do at work? What can't you do at work, et cetera? But for impairment rating, it's not about what they can do at work at all. And that's because work is a very complex task and it varies from individual to individual. So instead, the impairment rating is actually carried out based on what we all have to do at home. So these might include things like self care, getting dressed, bathing, toileting, cooking, typing, writing, basic hand functions, grasping, lifting, transportation, driving, sexual activities are a big part of the activities of daily living. Sleep is another one. And then, of course, the standard activities of standing, sitting, walking, climbing, etc. So the activities of daily living, that's point number two. Number three, we want an objective physical exam with motions of degrees to the nearest degree if possible. But we want to know what the range of motion is. I can't tell you how often I'm doing or trying to help someone with their impairment report, and you look through the physical exam, there was no range of motion done on the shoulder or no range of motion done on the back. So if you're doing an orthopedic exam, be certain that there's some communication of the nearest degree of motion. We like ranges of motion to be done on the upper extremities at least twice to make sure that they're roughly within 10% of one another. And on the lower extremity, we want those measurements done 3 times. Range of motion of the spine, 3 times. So range of motion is a very important component of the physical exam. Neurosensory testing, we want to know about sensory loss, what dermatome it's in, what nerve it's in, if there's motor weakness, those types of things are important. And then, of course, special testing, such as knee laxity or shoulder dislocating on physical exam, etc. So that's point number 3, is the objective physical exam. Number 4, a review of the diagnostic tests. So we're talking about x-rays showing arthritis, neurodiagnostic studies maybe showing a nerve compression, carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, something of that nature. And then we also want a review of what surgical procedures were done. Believe it or not, certain surgical procedures in and by themselves will give impairment. So a common one is having a partial meniscus surgery on your knee removed. Obviously, a total knee is a special rating consideration, and that's a surgery. Carpal tunnel release is another condition that results in certain considerations for impairment. So we do want to know what has been done as far as procedures. Even epidural injections can be rateable in a claim. So that's number 4, diagnostic tests and procedures and intervention. And then number 5 is the biggest and most obvious one. We have to do some calculations. So in California and several other states, we use the AMA Guides 5th edition. And basically, this is a set of rules that we follow to go through each body part and determine how much loss there is. So for instance, a 0 impairment means that the individual has no measurable loss and has no limitation on their function at all. Whereas a rating as high as 90 or 100%, the AMA Guide said this person is actually dependent on someone else for nearly all of their activities of daily living, or even approaching death. So those are the two main spectrums that we use to kind of reference. And I use those to help communicate to a patient when they don't understand, what does it mean to have a 4% impairment loss? I think it should be 26. Patients will say this, but I always give them that range so that they can kind of get some reference in their head as to, what a 100 really is and what a 0 is. So it's important that you understand that too. And then, as I said, it's important that as each body part becomes maximally medically improved, it will get its whole person impairment. When the last body part is rated, that entire claim is now at MMI, and all of the different body parts are combined using a certain formula, and that will determine the final whole person impairment of the claim. Now, just to kind of summarize this whole thing, RateFast is a service that's very much like taking your taxes to a CPA. You give us the information, we compile it, we get the return together, we format it, and we give it to you. And just like your taxes, you're responsible for signing off. You're responsible for checking if there's any accuracy or concerns or anything you don't agree with. And after that, it can be sent off to the carrier and the claim can be adjudicated. So in a nutshell, hopefully this has helped out everyone understand what is a PR-4 in California, when is it done, who does it, why do we do it, and what is it, etc. So that's it in a nutshell, Corey.
Well, thank you so much for telling us about the PR-4 report today, John. And if you have any more questions about a PR-4 report, how it's done, where it's done, why it's done, you can visit our blog at blog.rate-fast.com. Thanks again for coming on today, John.
Thanks for having us, Corey. We'll talk later.
All right.